Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Atticus.
While every episode of Fun Facts Daily is clean and appropriate for listeners of all ages, on the first Friday of every month, I like to do a Family Fun Friday with my kids as co-hosts. Today, Atticus is joining me because he wanted to make an episode all about mythology. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this.
When you picture a fierce Viking warrior charging into battle, you probably imagine them wearing a heavy metal helmet with two large horns sticking out the sides. It is one of the most iconic images in history, appearing in cartoons, movies, and sports team logos. But we have to ask, did real Viking warriors actually wear horned helmets, or is this famous fashion statement all a historical fabrication? What do you think? We'll find out at the end of this episode.
Now for your word of the day.
Today's word is mythos. That's M-Y-T-H-O-S. In modern English, we use mythos to describe a set of beliefs or assumptions about something, often involving the underlying system of values for a specific culture or group. The word comes directly from the ancient Greek word mythos, which means report, tale, or story. Originally, it didn't carry the modern connotation of something being false. Instead, for ancient philosophers like Aristotle, mythos referred to the plot or structure of a dramatic story, the way the events were arranged to create meaning.
Over thousands of years, the meaning shifted. As societies moved towards scientific explanations for natural events, these stories or mythoi began to be seen as less literal reports and more as symbolic legends. Today, when we study mythology, we're essentially studying the story logic of ancient people, how they used narrative to make sense of the confusing, often overwhelming, and powerful forces of the world around them.
Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about mythology. Number 1. Most days are named after Norse gods.
4 of our 7 days in the week are actually named after ancient Viking deities. In English, the days Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are derived from Old English translations of Norse gods. Tuesday is Tuesday, associated with Tyr, the god of war. Wednesday is Woden's Day for Odin, the chief god. Thursday is Thor's Day, the god of thunder. And Friday is Frigg's Day. Frigg was the wife of Odin and the goddess of marriage and motherhood. While the Romans named their days after planets like Mars and Jupiter, the Germanic and Norse cultures swapped those out for their own equivalent gods, leaving us with a weekly calendar that honors ancient mythology. The remaining days of the week have different origins that highlight how English is really a melting pot of cultures. Saturday is the only day that retained its Roman name, honoring the god Saturn, while Sunday and Monday are named after celestial bodies. Sunday comes from the Old English Sunnundag, meaning day of the sun, and Monday comes from Monundag, meaning day of the moon. So, every time you recite the days of the week, you're actually blending Roman history, celestial observation, and ancient Norse mythology all in one breath.
Number 2. The legendary Kraken is likely based on a real animal swimming in the ocean right now.
The terrifying sea monster known as the Kraken, said to drag ships underwater, was almost certainly inspired by sightings of the giant squid. According to Scandinavian folklore dating back to the 13th century, the Kraken was a beast so huge when it surfaced it could be mistaken for an island. Sailors feared that the creature would wrap its massive tentacles around the hull of ship and capsize it, or that the whirlpool created by the beast diving back down would suck a vessel into the depths. These stories were passed down by sailors who spent months at sea, where fear and exhaustion often played tricks on the mind. Today, marine biologists believe these monsters were actually the giant squid, a real animal that can grow up to 43 feet long. While they don't actually sink ships, they are elusive deep-sea predators that fight with sperm whales and possess the largest eyes in the animal kingdom. When 18th century naturalists wrote about the kraken, they were likely documenting exaggerated encounters with these real-life cephalopods.
Number 3. Echo isn't just a sound. It was originally the name of a person.
In Greek mythology, Echo was a chatty mountain nymph who was cursed to only be able to repeat the last words spoken to her. The story goes that the goddess Hera punished Echo for talking too much and distracting her while Zeus was away. Tragic and lonely, Echo eventually fell in love with a young man but could never tell him her true feelings because she couldn't start a conversation. She could only repeat the ends of his sentences back to him. Over time, she faded away into sadness until nothing was left but her voice, which the Greeks believed lived on in the canyons and caves. This myth was the ancient world's way of explaining the acoustic phenomenon of sound reflection. Before we understood sound waves and how they bounce off hard surfaces like rock walls, this story provided a poetic explanation for why our voices return to us in empty spaces. Interestingly, the name stuck so well that even in our modern scientific vocabulary, we still pay homage to the nymph Echo every time we talk about echolocation in bats or echocardiograms in hospitals.
Number 4. The daffodil flower is named after a young man who loved his own reflection.
The botanical name for the daffodil genus is Narcissus, named after the hunter in Greek mythology known for his incredible beauty. In the myth, Narcissus was incredibly proud and rejected everyone who tried to be his friend. As punishment for his vanity, he was cursed to fall in love with his own reflection in a pool of water, staring at himself until he wasted away. In his place, a flower grew with golden petals and a central trumpet, often found bending its neck toward the ground as if it were still gazing at its own reflection in a stream. This story has had a massive impact on both botany and modern psychology. In the garden, the genus Narcissus covers a wide variety of spring bulbs, and in psychology, the term narcissism is used to describe a personality trait characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance and a need for admiration. The ancient Greeks used this story as a warning against vanity, and thousands of years later, we still use the character's name to describe the exact same human behavior.
And our 5th and final fun fact, archaeologists have found real-life versions of Thor's hammer, but they are tiny jewelry.
While Thor is famous for his giant, monster-smashing hammer Mjolnir, real Vikings wore miniature versions as protective amulets. In Norse mythology, Mjolnir was forged by dwarven blacksmiths and was considered the most powerful weapon in existence, capable of leveling mountains and always returning to Thor's hand when thrown. It wasn't just a weapon, though. It was a holy symbol used to bless marriages, births, and funerals, symbolizing protection and stability for the community. Archaeologists have found proof of this cultural devotion in the form of hundreds of small Thor's hammer pendants across Scandinavia. Interestingly, as Christianity began to spread into Viking lands, these pendants evolved into the famous wolf cross found in Ireland, which looks like a mix between a Christian cross and the pagan hammer. This fascinating jewelry shows us that ancient people were pragmatic. Rather than abandoning their old protector Thor immediately, it would seem they sort of hedged their bets and honored both the old myths and new religions simultaneously.
Now for some news you can use. Today's tip is inspired by Janus, the ancient Roman god of beginnings, gates, and transitions. In Roman mythology, Janus was a unique figure because he was depicted with two faces on a single head, one looking backward into the past and one looking forward into the future. He was the guardian of doorways and the god of the passage of time, which is why the month of January is named after him. It is the doorway to the new year. The Romans believed that to move safely into the future, you had to acknowledge where you came from, paying attention to the entry and exit simultaneously.
You can apply this ancient wisdom in modern life whenever you finish a project, school term, or even just a busy week. Instead of rushing immediately to the next task, pause and stand in the metaphorical doorway for a few minutes. First, look backward. Ask yourself, what's one thing that went surprisingly well, and maybe one thing that didn't? Then, immediately look forward. How can I apply that specific lesson to my goal for the next week? By consciously connecting your past experience to your future plan, you stop making the same mistakes and start building momentum. This idea of adopting a sort of dual focus may come from ancient mythology, but it's backed by modern science. Psychologists refer to this ability as a mental time travel or chronesthesia. Brain imaging studies have revealed that the same specific framework in your brain, called the default mode network, is activated both when you remember the past and when you imagine the future. Essentially, your brain uses memories as the raw building blocks to simulate tomorrow. By actively reflecting on the past, the backward face of Janus, you're literally giving your brain better data to predict and plan for the future, the forward face. Taking time for reflecting and connecting old learning to new situations will make you more adaptable and successful.
And now, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, we asked, did Vikings actually wear those cool horned helmets into battle? This one is a myth, and I mean that in the modern sense. It's a fallacy. Despite what you see in cartoons and movies, there is zero archaeological evidence that Viking warriors wore helmets with horns. In fact, horns would have been a terrible idea in battle because an enemy could easily grab them or they could get tangled in trees or shields.
The image of a horned helmet was actually popularized in the 1870s by a costume designer named Karl Emil Doppler for Richard Wagner's famous opera, The Ring of Nibelung. He thought the horns looked dramatic and scary for the stage, and the look just stuck in popular culture ever since. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about mythology with us today.
And be sure to tune in every weekday for more fun facts.
Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by us, Kyle, Atticus, and Philly. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with us. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.